I'm going to just take a moment here as everyone starts to arrive to get everyone a moment before we get started. We're a minute early, but we wanted those of you who are here to get settled. And yeah, I see we already have Ainsley using the chat. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, to say who you are, where you're from, if you're living with vasculitis, what type of vasculitis you might have. And Ainsley, I see that you're in the hospital, sending you lots of healing love and energy. I feel like you're in the right place. Both, I mean, you're taking care of you, and then Jim's also going to take care of your spirit today. I have no doubts about that too. I'm really grateful that you're joining us from exactly where you are. All right. Hi, Carol from Southern California. All right, so it's the top of the hour. I'm not going to delay too long. Jim is such a treat. So I'm Ashley. I'm the Director of Communications at the Vasculitis Foundation, and we're really excited to offer this workshop today. Jim, as I've mentioned, has such a lovely spirit, and I know he's so excited to share today. I want to tell you a little bit about Jim before we get started. All right, let's see if Jim, I can find your bio here. So Jim serves on the prevention team at Domestic Abuse and Sexual Assault Intervention Services, which is DAISY for short, in Newtown, New Jersey. He facilitates healing poetry groups, including the Rise Up Poetry Project at DAISY, which are for healing workshops for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. He's a peer recovery specialist at Decide, a program that works with men who have used violence in their relationships. And one of the other fun facts I love about Jim is he has facilitated poetry for the School of Leadership Afghanistan. So for women who are going to school in Afghanistan at SOLA, it's called. His poems have appeared in multiple places. He's the father of Jessica and Lindsay in Saylorsburg, Pennsylvania, where he lives with his two cats, Scout and Tom. Very important, always got to include the cats. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this over to Jim. Go for it, Jim.
Hi, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for being here with us. Jennifer, Martha, Ingrid. Let's see who else we have. Ainsley, Carol, Linda, Marlene, Deborah, Sarah, Barbara, Judith, and whoever else may join us. It's really an honor to be here. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I've had a slight obsession with poetry for about 50 years. And so I don't really have to say too much about that, but let's get started, and I'll share my screen. So today, we're going to read some poetry. Everybody have an opportunity to write, and we'll just see where it goes. You know, I use an expression I heard. I don't know how many folks have heard of John Madden, a football coach, but years ago, John Madden said, he was a coach for the Oakland Raiders, and he said, before every game, I'd say the team, don't worry about the horse being blind. Let's load up the wagon and head on into town. And he said, I don't really know what that means, but that's kind of the way I feel about poetry. And here we go. So here's a quote from Robert Bly. My feeling is that poetry is also a healing process. And when a person tries to write poetry with depth or beauty, they will find themselves guided along paths which will heal them. And this is more important, actually, than any of the poetry they write. So here's one path we're on today. Okay. So something I like to start groups with is, I read a while back that we breathe on average like 20,300 breaths a day. So why not take 10 good slow breaths? And I don't know how many folks engage in any kind of meditation or breathing practice or yoga or any of those kind of body-centered practices, but this is simply what that is. And it's the idea, if we slow down our breath, slow down our respiratory rate, slow down our heartbeat, we can kind of get in our thinking mind and not be in our reactive mind so much. So I invite everybody, if you're comfortable with shutting your eyes, to please do that and relax as best we can, our shoulders or wherever we carry tension. And we'll just take 10 good slow breaths. So some things we share for the group of confidentiality. As I always say, what we say in a room stays in a room. Respect for each other's thoughts, feelings, and opinions. Some of the groups will mention, if you feel upset or anxious by anything we share, please feel to check out and check in with a source of support for yourself. And then we'll move on to the 10 non-negotiable rules for writing poetry. So does everybody have a pen and paper, pencil and paper, something to write with? And you could probably memorize these if you don't want to write it down. But rule number 1 is no apologies for anything you write. Because this thing up here is full of stuff. I'll use that word. This tells us I can't, I'm not, other people are creative. Oh, this isn't that good. So we don't have to do that to ourselves, right? We don't have to put that kind of pressure on ourselves. We don't have to apologize. Rule number 2 is have fun, exclamation point. And I forgot the other 8 rules, so let's just use those 2. Okay. And for me, this definition of fun is on a spectrum, and the capacity to share something that surprises us that isn't in this, it comes from here. There's a sense of joy in that. And maybe that's what I mean by fun. And I'm thinking about adding rule number 3, which is in case of emergency, forget all the rules and just write. Because really that's what this whole thing's about. So some thoughts on writing what we call healing poetry. We celebrate each other's poetry with snaps or those hands. And some thoughts: write, don't think. Just let the pen move. The pen will find the story we need to tell. Let the poem write itself. Use your own voice. This way, your voice, not somebody else's. We don't have to try and sound like poets. Don't worry about word choice or worry about spelling or punctuation. Don't worry about worrying. The pay isn't any better. Listen for the music in your writing. The rhythm, the cadence. Sometimes that rhythm will lead us to things. It's kind of like listen to a song, kind of feel the words coming, right? Find what you love and steal it. We'll do that today. Wonderful poet by the name of T.S. Eliot said, amateurs borrow, masters steal, and we're all masters of our own poems. So I say steal away. Making sense is not a priority. Telling our story is a priority. And a question for everybody. Where are the poems that you have spoken today or seen or felt? Saw a pair of cardinals in my lilac bush this morning. Watched my daughter's dog running around the yard, right? And most importantly of all, to treat ourselves with kindness in this process. Okay. So I'll turn the page. And we'll start with reading some quotes out loud. And we'll just take our time, but we'll just popcorn around the room. I'll read the first one, and then whoever would like will read the next one. Okay. So the first quote is by Rumi, who wrote about 800 years ago. Actually, he spoke his poems about 800 years ago. Poetry is the work of opening the heart. Rumi.
Poetry is a feeling, and we are not prepared to feel it. Gabby, 16, GED student.
A poem begins as a lump in the throat, a sense of wrong, a homesickness, a lovesickness. Robert Frost.
Think. How can you think and hit at the same time? Yogi Berra, baseball player.
Poetry allows us to speak with a power that is not granted by our culture. Linda McCarriston.
There is no money in poetry, but then again, there's no poetry in money either. Robert Graves.
Ring the bells that can still ring. Forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. Leonard Cohen.
Poetry is oh, I lost it. Moved. Sorry. Oh, poetry is everywhere. It just needs editing. James Tate.
Genuine poetry can communicate before it is understood. T.S. Eliot.
Poetry lies its way to the truth. John Ciardi.
Yep.
A bird doesn't sing because it has an answer. It sings because it has a song. Maya Angelou.
I'll read the next one. Poetry is like a bird. It ignores all frontiers. Yevgeny Yevtushenko.
I'm not kidding, Mommy. Oh, go ahead.
You go ahead.
I'm not kidding, Mommy, and I am not joking, and I am not fooling around. I need chocolate. Sophia, who gets it, age 3.
Thank you.
We must have the patience to listen to ourselves carefully. Julia Cameron.
Someone I loved once handed me a box of darkness. It took me years to realize that this, too, was a gift. Mary Oliver.
So do you see any lines that catch your eye today or speak to you?
Chocolate.
Yeah. I think that's a universal theme.
There is no money in poetry, but then again, there's no poetry in money.
Yeah.
I've been writing using a canary in a coal mine metaphor for myself this past week, and so I've been writing about birds. So the bird doesn't sing, which Maya Angelou is one of my favorite ever, and so seeing that line here it resonated pretty deeply.
Gorgeous quote. Gorgeous quote. Thank you.
I like the poem begins as a lump in our throat, a sense of wrong, a homesickness, a lovesickness.
Mm. Mm. I think thank you for saying that. and I've read that quote a long time, but it just occurs to me sometimes that lump in our throat gets stuck and we don't say it. It's a necessary thing.
Yeah, and I love the Leonard Cohen quote.
Mm.
That's how the light gets in. I love everything that he did in his lifetime, and I'm glad you included him.
Mm. It's a gorgeous quote.
Yeah.
That's how the light gets in. I'm going to include the first two. Poetry is the work of opening the heart by Rumi. I always have loved that quote. And the second quote came from a GED class we were teaching with poetry. And this young woman wrote, poetry is a feeling and we're not prepared to feel it. And it's, use a technical term, it blew me away. Anybody else see a quote they like? Awesome, thank you. And these are affirmations from a wonderful book called Poetic Medicine by John Fox. If you look him up, he's an amazing guy. And so typically in a group, we'll read these out loud together, but it doesn't work too well on Skype, or excuse me, on Zoom, because it's all, you know. So would one person like to read these like nice and slow?
I can do it.
Please.
Reclaiming my creative imagination. I am creative. I value the healing power of language. I write from my gut and heart. I trust humor and sensitivity. I honor the language of my feelings. I give voice to the wild and joyous parts of myself. I give voice to the stormy and grieving parts of myself. I am compassionate toward myself. I make a place for the mystery and the creative in my life. I hold close to myself that which is dear to me. I am safe writing on the page. I make my home a place to write.
I want to give snaps for that reading.
Thank you.
Thank you. You read that much more beautifully than I would have. Thank you, Judith. Does anybody see a line that speaks to them?
I value the healing power of language because it's important whether it's oral or written or thought.
Or a thought, yeah. Ooh.
The line that spoke with me is I am creative, because creativity is very important for people to have, because it shows that they have imagination and that they're not boring.
Amen. And we have conversations about this in different groups, and I will hold that we're all creative. We're all creative.
I cherish this line. I value the healing power of language, and also I trust humor and sensitivity.
I love the line, I write from my gut and heart. I feel like the older I get, the less I write from my head and the more it just has to come from my body and from a feeling.
I really like the part where it says, I give voice to the stormy and grieving parts of myself, which I'm sure all of us can relate to. So giving space for every part of our experience, whether it be positive or negative. I think that speaks to me.
Yeah, and what it means to have the capacity to do that, huh? In a place. And thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I couple it with line of I give voice to the wild and joyous parts of myself. I think the line is kind of like the opposite. And I think that that's the
Yeah, I heard the wild and joyous parts of myself breaking up a little. Yeah, that's kind of a couplet, to give voice to the wild and joyous parts of ourselves, to have that capacity to share that, exuberance or whatever you want to call it. We can do that. And at the same time, we can also give voice to the stormy and grieving parts of ourselves. Kind of giving us permission. Which wasn't always a part of my educational background. Just saying. But here it is.
I think they're, oh, go ahead.
No, please.
No, I think they're all really marvelous, but I am really drawn to, I make a place for the mystery and the creative in my life.
I like the I give voice to the stormy and grieving parts of myself.
Yeah.
I like the last one. I make my home a place to write. I retired not too long ago, and the job I had for 12 years before that, I had to write every day at work. And I knew that when I left that job, I would really miss the writing, and it was technical writing. So I've been taking a lot of writing workshops to get used to more literary writing. And on one of those, the instructor had us figure out how to make space for writing, and it's space in the head, space, physical space. And he hadn't quite expected hearing about physical space, but I'm in the process of creating a physical space in my house to write.
It's wonderful. I mean, there's an intention there, right?
Yeah,
this is something that's important, and I have a place. I've heard folks like describe that as having like a sacred place.
Yeah.
Where I go, and I know this is where I'm going to participate in something deeply meaningful to me.
When you're considering retiring, you can think about, oh yeah, when I retire, I want to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, blah, 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 blah. And you go through that process, and at the end of it, I've discovered the one thing I cannot live without is writing.
Wow. Write that down. Here are the poems that are all around us, just from what we're sharing. And how much of poetry is noticing. Thank you. Would anybody else like to say anything about it? I'd say over the years, the one affirmation that's pointed out more than any is I am compassionate toward myself. So, on to our first poem. Anybody familiar with Naomi Shihab Nye?
Yeah, I am. She's one of my favorites.
He's an amazing poet, amazing person, amazing person. So this poem came from, as Naomi Shihab Nye relates, she taught poetry right out of college in Texas for years, and then went on to become a wonderful writer and poet. And She was teaching an 8th grade class, and between classes in a hallway, a boy came up to her. His name was Ernest Mann, and said, well, hey, here's my address, write me a poem. So it was Valentine's Day. So this poem became Valentine for Ernest Mann. So I'll read this. We can talk about kind of things that caught her eye, and then we'll do a little reading, okay? So here we go. Valentine for Ernest Mann. You can't order a poem like you order a taco. Walk up to the counter, say, I'll take 2, and expect it to be handed back to you on a shiny plate. Still, I like your spirit. Anyone who says, here's my address, write me a poem, deserves something in reply. So I'll tell a secret instead. Poems hide. In the bottoms of our shoes, they are sleeping. They are the shadows drifting across our ceilings the moment before we wake up. What we have to do is live in a way that lets us find them. Once I knew a man who gave his wife 2 skunks for a Valentine. He couldn't understand why she was crying. I thought they had such beautiful eyes, and he was serious. He was a serious man who lived in a serious way. Nothing was ugly just because the world said so. He really liked those skunks. So he reinvented them as Valentines, and they became beautiful, at least to him. And the poems that had been hiding in the eyes of skunks for centuries crawled out and curled up at his feet. Maybe if we reinvent whatever our lives give us, we find poems. Check your garage, the off sock in your drawer, the person you almost like, but not quite, and let me know. Yes. Thank you, Ingrid. Does anybody see a line that caught their eye, or any thoughts or feelings about the poem?
I like the line that said, once I knew a man who gave his wife 2 skunks for a Valentine. That is a very jerk move on Valentine's Day.
A very what?
If I was that wife, I would be so angry. I would be like, why did you give me 2 skunks for Valentine's Day? What did I ever do to you?
He couldn't understand why she was crying.
Well, I mean, he does explain he thought they had beautiful eyes, but that was somebody who wasn't thinking about the recipient of the gift.
Mm-hmm.
He was thinking about what he thought of the skunks and not what his wife would think of the skunks.
Selfishness.
A little bit.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Anybody else see a line that caught their eye?
I like
Yes.
the very last one that says, maybe if we reinvent whatever our lives give us, we find poems.
On the other hand, this was a man who wasn't going to allow the world's feeling towards skunks dictate how he felt about skunks.
True.
I think he saw something in their eyes that nobody else sees, and he was able to bring that out in them.
Mm-hmm. He saw, I thought they had such beautiful eyes. Right?
I love that and the poems that had been hiding in the eyes of skunks for centuries crawled out and curled up at his feet. It's just such an awesome image.
I have to concur with that. That also spoke to me, that line, and that little blurb at the end saying maybe we reinvent whatever our lives gives us, we find poems. I thought that was really powerful ending to the poem.
Yeah. And somebody else had spoken that before. I'm not sure who, but yeah, Marlene, I love that line about reinventing whatever our lives give us. Right?
Yeah, there's two lines that really I love. Poems hide because you can find them anywhere. And then what's really affirming for me was nothing was ugly just because the world said so. I wish someone would have told me that when I was like 4 or 5 and a young child. It probably would have changed my life.
Yeah. Well, here we are, huh? With whatever messages we got, whatever lessons we got. And understanding that that is such an important, that line is such an important part of this poem.
I like the line there, the shadows drifting across our ceilings the moment before we wake up. That resonates with me because at that point, I feel like we're closest to a higher frequency than we function on every day in our daily lives. And just my opinion on the skunk thing, I don't think it was selfish. I think he was perceiving from his own self, obviously, the beauty of that animal and was clueless about the repercussions of its stench. And, you know, otherwise he wouldn't have said, I don't know why she didn't love it. I was surprised when she cried because he saw the beauty. But that's just me.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, Valentine's can be a tricky gift. Okay, so how about we do this? We'll find one line that catches your eye and make that the first line. And this is the write, don't think part. I'd encourage you just let the pen move. You don't have to share, but I encourage everybody to write. Okay. So let's find a line you like, make that the first line of your poem, and we'll write for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and regroup.
I'm so sorry. Do we have a prompt? My doctor's just left the room.
Yeah, find a line you like and make that the first line of your poem. And just write them.
Sounds good.
Okay. Another minute or so. And if we could finish up. How are we doing? Okay. Anybody like to read? Dun, dun, dun.
Read mine,
Okay.
or I can just paste it up on the chat thing. So the sentence was, maybe if we reinvent ourselves, our lives give us whatever our lives gives us, we find poems. Sorry, I didn't write
You good.
that down exact. A task easier said than done when resistance to reinvention can be so powerful. Maybe the healing occurs when we crack open that resistance and allow the light of mystery to find us. Overcoming the fear of the unknown, tugging at the strings of inner truth to bring out the compassion that lies in wait. Can we force ourselves to look at life in a new way? Does it have to be through pain? A willingness to challenge our reality may be what's needed to move forward a step. I kind of got sidetracked there, but I don't know where I was going,
That's all I
kind
got
of.
to
But
say.
what?
That's all I got to say, Deborah.
Oh,
Wow. Allow the light to find us. There were so. Anybody have any other thoughts or hear a line from Deborah's poem that caught your ear? Could you read it again, Deborah?
from the beginning?
Yep.
Okay, maybe if we reinvent whatever our lives give us, we find poems. A task easier said than done when resistance to reinvention can be so powerful. Maybe the healing occurs when we crack open that resistance and allow the light of mystery to find us. Overcoming the fear of the unknown, tugging at the strings of inner truth to bring out the compassion that lies in wait. Can we force ourselves to look at life in a new way? Does it have to be through pain? A willingness to challenge our reality may be what's needed to move forward a step. I put compassion in there that lies in wait because I wrote that down as something in that list of things you had. I am compassionate toward myself. That's something that I am not. And so it's a personal thing for me to try to have a little more compassion. I am compassionate, but not so much to myself. It's just been very hard because, my expectations of recovery were so grandiose, and it hasn't really worked out that way. So everything is sort of an adjustment to what this current reality is. So the reinvention of myself in this little, in this world that I'm in is, it's something that speaks to me, with trying to make sort of like rise from the ashes of whatever you were
Mhm.
before,
Mhm.
because I'm not that person that I used to be, even though I want to be, and then punishing myself doesn't really help. So,
Yeah.
looking at compassion from the inside, not the outside, is what I was sort of trying to get to there.
Where that crack comes in, and
Right.
right, where there's so much there. Thank you. And the compassion piece is a daily process for us all, at some levels.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, some people are better at it, but
I don't know
But,
who else is
I
working.
don't know who those people are, but I have a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah. Amen. I mean, it's something we're not given in our world a lot. I mean, in terms of, I'm just thinking of our schooling, our academic life, or whatever that was, achievement, competitiveness, and pushing. And
Yeah. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, burrow through, you can do it. We got to get to the finish line, Let's keep going, half a leg, and we're going to make it, But I guess this is that humbling experience of reality.
Write that down. Thank you. Somebody else like?
I can go.
Okay.
Let me know what you think, how you feel, if you're in pain today, tomorrow, or someday in the future. Here's my cell number, said the smiling, caring rheumatologist with the gold shoes, thick brown eyeglasses, and long white coat, handing over a small square piece of paper. Walking out of the clinic room, just hearing about my diagnosis, I thought just maybe life with vasculitis will be okay.
Should we all do that?
Yep.
Sorry, I missed it.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, good. I'm sorry. I can't see who's speaking.
Hi, it's Alyssa.
Hi, Alyssa.
How are you? Thank you all, since I didn't see that because I was too busy looking at my piece of paper.
All good.
So this is based upon experience.
Yeah.
So not only did I pick the line of let me know, but when I think in the Valentine for Earnest Man, where it says check your garage, the off socking you draw the person you almost like, it's looking at your experiences. And I find having written poetry before, writing from experience really helps, and it can just be one line, or it could be an event that happens in your life. And then you can really express it because it's coming from your perspective.
Mm-hmm. I'll respond to that with a clinical phrase, or oh, hell yes. Absolutely. Our moments. I mean, I could see that person in the coat and hear the voice of handing that note and let me know. It's paying attention to those, those moments in our lives. Somebody says something, it could be a neighbor, or in this case, a deeply vulnerable moment that was so powerful.
Yeah, and just, a handing over of a small piece of paper, how that can turn your life around. And I can tell you, I never abused that cell phone number, but boy, did I use it several times, and it just makes an impact. And, my hope was in writing that is, that you could sort of visualize that moment from the lines I wrote.
You certainly did. Visualize a moment and feel the emotional impact it had on you.
Yes, absolutely. And I still have the doctor, just so you know.
Hey, you have the gift to give that person.
I also have a poem now to give her when I see her next. How's that?
That's what I'm saying. That's the gift. I love when folks write a poem with somebody in mind and say, will you share that with that person and read it for them? So.
Alyssa, I found your last two lines very uplifting. And I had a similar experience, so I think probably most of us on the call can relate to your experience.
That's really nice to hear. I appreciate that. Yeah. It was very, very, very rough at the beginning, and I'm grateful for where I am now, and especially to this doctor.
Alyssa, I wrote a similar, I had come back in right at the end of this prompt, so I didn't write a ton, but I similarly wrote about like diagnostic journey. So I'm with you in that.
Glad to hear. Thanks for sharing.
Well, thank you, Alyssa. Somebody else like to read?
I'll read mine really quick.
Okay, Ansel.
I picked the line, so I started with, and he was serious. He was a serious man with my life in his pockets and his balled up hands. I heard him click his pen, heard him click his tongue, could taste his frank frustration. I could sense that he was done. Men in white coats and big brains and small minds like to work on puzzles where they won't quite have to try. The box may boast its hardship. They do want to earn respect, but the picture's just a picture and the pieces won't object. I, though, am not a puzzle, at least not the kind they like. The blood and bone and vessels are indifferent and on strike. The body I'm contained in doesn't care that it is weird. It doesn't care the words it speaks or ones they don't want to hear. And that's just as far as I've gotten.
Holy cow.
God, that's amazing.
Anybody else feeling that?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, my mouth opened up. Wow. That very well done. Very well done.
Thank you. When I'm in an emotional moment, when I can only write and rhyme, and it's a thing that I'm very insensitive about. Like I feel I'm very sensitive about. It feels childish to me. But I can't get words down unless the rhymes are in there. So I'm glad that I joke that I call myself trauma Dr. Seuss, and I don't ever, I feel worried about it. So thank you for a positive response.
God, I would love to
Hear that again.
hear it again.
Yeah.
A copy of it, because I think we all resonate with the experience of the doctor you described.
Sure, I'll copy it and I'll read it again.
That'd be great.
Just make one suggestion.
Yeah.
Try reading just a little slower.
That's like this. I can do that. And he was serious. He was a serious man with my life in his pockets and his balled up hands. I could hear him. I heard him click his pen, heard him click his tongue. I could taste his frank frustration. I could sense that he was done. Men in white coats with big brains and small minds like to work on puzzles where they won't quite have to try. The box may boast of hardship. They do want to earn respect, but the picture's just a picture and the pieces won't object. I, though, am not a puzzle, at least not the kind they like. The blood and bone and vessels are indifferent and on strike. The body I'm contained in doesn't care that it is weird. It doesn't care the words I speak are ones they don't want to hear.
Wow.
That is beautiful. I love what you wrote. It really, like, I'm gonna tear up. Like, that is beautiful. You're so good.
Thank you. It's in the vein of a piece that I had written, or the canary one that I had referenced. I have that kind of diagnostic anger. So is it okay, Jim, if I share the canary one in the chat or read it out loud?
Absolutely, please.
Okay. The canary one says, my body's been a mine of coal and I've been its canary. I've spent all these years screaming, trying hard not to get buried. I've asked so many folks to listen and they haven't heard a word. They have trading titles and degrees. I'm just a stupid bird. But birds can also know things, and birds know how they feel. So frantically, I flapped my wings and shrieked out my appeal. Now finally someone's listened, wants to help me to escape. The trouble is the timing. Is it already too late? The point of the canary is to give an early sign. If the dumb bird stopped its screaming, you'd evacuate in time. But before I started singing, you firmly closed my beak. How can I give a warning if you will not hear me speak? What's the point of the canary? Just to have something to cage? Is it fun for you to shut your ears and leave me with my rage? Because I'm more than a canary. I cannot fucking fly. You call this bullshit healthcare? What a stupid fucking lie. If you bring me to your coal mine and you wait for my alarm, don't drown my warnings out with claims that first you'll do no harm.
Bravo.
Okay, how can I give a warning if you will not hear my cry?
Amazing.
It's so amazing. Wow.
It's really, both of those are awesome.
Thank you.
Did.
I figured y'all would know that feeling. You would know that that particular heaviness.
Absolutely.
The frustration.
One thing I say with groups I work with, this isn't about feeling better. This is about getting better at feeling. And if the feeling's rage or frustration or despair or whatever it is, that's where the poem wants to go. So thank you for your honesty. Thank you, Izzy. Okay. Somebody else like to read?
Oh, I have to say is I've been seeing too many Hallmark movies because mine just went into some other direction that is not worthy of being read after what I just heard.
Well, we'll be the judge of that.
Oh God, no, it's embarrassing. Oh, I'm like, I went off into some romantic fiction.
Judith, rule number 1 and rule number 2, both at the same time. No apologies and just have some fun.
I'm not going to torture you guys with this silliness.
Oh, I want to hear it.
Yeah, no, you know,
It's interesting to hear other people's perspectives.
So
I think
too much. Go
All
ahead.
right. Well, just, at least take it as an opportunity to lighten up. Okay. And just laugh.
Okay.
I just went with, he couldn't understand why she was crying. What did he do? He gave her 2 brown-eyed pets with the soulful eyes. He saw behind the characteristic identifying white stripe. Just look at their eyes. See the cute bushy tail wiggling side to side as they walked. He never seems to get her the right presents. He wanted to express his love with a gift that no one else has. The 2 skunks were something they could take care of together and share. He had hoped she would love them together with loving him. After all, he knows he wasn't much to look at and he was kind of smelly, and yet she loved him. Or did she really? Why did she love him then? He wasn't like the other guys in the neighborhood, but she picked him. No one else ever picked him. I'm sorry.
I love the exploration of and how he wanted to express his love. As the guy who's gotten the wrong present more than a couple times, have a little compassion, I guess, which is not silly at all. Not silly at all.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love how she explored the idea of how the skunks in a way represented him. Like she saw the beauty in him, like the beauty in the skunks, and he wondered how she saw that in him. Like, I don't know, it was beautiful.
Yeah, because he was kind of like the skunks. He's a little smelly and yeah. I'm convinced that anybody writes a page full of anything, just writes about their life, their childhood, where they're, the neighborhood, their family, whatever. Fill up a page and you'll have some gems in there. And you have some gems there, Judith. Thank you. Okay, somebody else like to share? We good? Okay.
Thank you for your kindness, people. I mean, for my silly little story.
You may have lightning behind me because there's storming where I'm at.
Okay. Where are you at?
You'll hear dogs potentially.
Okay, I got you.
Maybe if we reinvent whatever our lives gives us, what a life I can have. I could travel all around the world, visiting every country, meeting its amazing people and their culture. I could run a marathon and feel the breeze pass by me. I could build myself a palace with a pool where I could swim all day. I could learn to fly a plane, traveling anywhere I wanted on a whim. I could become a bakery chef, design the most delicate, dainty chocolate dessert ever. I could become a medical researcher and create treatments for all rare diseases. Back to reality, I am where I am with love. I thank my family and friends for their endless support. I thank my dogs for their cuddles and understanding. Lastly, I thank my heart and soul for being my best friend.
I love the repetition.
Move my finger.
I could. Back to reality, I am what I am with love.
Yep. I write a lot. I write all the time.
Title for your next book, Back to Reality, I am what I am with love.
I like that. Yeah, I should do that.
When I was hospitalized for 4 months, I was, I'm still part of a mindset group and some other close friends, and I started emailing in a group, just kind of giving them basically I guess a little bit of a journal of my experience in the hospital, and the good, the bad, the ugly, the funny. I guess I do put a funny twist on everything. And everyone had started to look forward to that. And I didn't have any format or any idea what I wanted to do. I would just open up my laptop from the hospital bed and start typing and just keeping them in the loop of my journal, because also I was there the first January to May of 2020. So after March, I couldn't have any more visitors. Mm-hmm. So it became even more vital for me to keep in touch with emails and communicating, because we were all shut down. So you just never know where the writing will come from.
No, you don't.
Absolutely.
You don't. You never know. You could go into your kitchen and look at a spoon and go, I want to write about a spoon.
There's a wonderful poem about spoons by a guy named Charles Simic. But here's the deal for me, and the mystery and creative for me in life. We could take any object, like a spoon, and it'll mean, for how many people in this room, it'll mean 17 different things for everybody in the room. We all have a different connection. So that object that's a part of our life is just an object in and of itself, but there's the mysteries behind that, right? And the stories behind that, and the emotional connections are behind that. I have spoons from my grandparents that have the E on them, right? So just an example. Beauty's all around us.
This has inspired me to write, because I've been told several times by people, especially like in my mindset group, for example, that has seen me writing the emails and writing other things. I think it maybe, and now that I actually did this ridiculous little thing, but it's amazing how once I put my pen to paper, I just started writing this story that I hadn't planned ahead of time. It wasn't like I had an outline. I just started writing. And then as I was writing, I was thinking about, and yet she loved him, or did she really? I mean, all of a sudden I'm like writing a whole, drama series here.
Little Days of Our Lives going there.
and I have been told, I usually like to type my stuff. Okay. And I've been told time and time again that when you're journaling and so on, you should handwrite it. And I really felt it developing as I was handwriting. I don't know if this would have developed if I typed a Word document. So that would be something I have to experiment with myself.
Right. And folks might have heard this before, but writing traditionally has been done with a community of other writers, bounce ideas back and forth and just kind of, share. So the community is as much a part of this as anything, and hearing each other and the stories that come out of that. So thank you, Judith.
Thank you.
Somebody else like to read?
I thought I'd read mine. It's very short. Shiny plate. I used to be a shiny plate. Then I got a load of crap heaped onto my shiny plate. It stuck. It dried. Stained my shiny plate. Where's the dishwasher? That's it.
Yeah. Went from spoons to a plate and a powerful image.
Wow, you brought tears to my eyes. That's so on point.
Your last line made me laugh, though.
Yeah.
Also have great delivery.
Yeah.
Where's the dishwasher? I love that.
There it is. Thank you, Teresa.
I love that image of being a shiny plate.
Can I
And
ask-
then, not so shiny anymore.
Yeah, well, that changed quick, huh? Can I ask you where the idea of using shiny plate came from?
You said to take a line out of the plate, out of the poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, okay. Got you.
you said
can't be delivered on a shiny.
Can't be
Just
delivered
hand
on
it back as a shiny on a shiny
for
plate.
20 years and now I just, okay. But nobody's ever pointed it out in this poem before. Amazing.
Yeah.
Life doesn't
All
come.
the words shiny plate, and we're going, where'd the shiny plate come from? And you picked shiny plate. It must have resounded with you. It must have been something that was in the back of your mind. You didn't realize it, because
Well,
we
yeah.
all kind of feel from this disease tattered, scarred, a mere image of what we used to be or what we used to be able to do. Yeah, wow. That really got me.
From white coats to shiny plates. Thank you. Somebody else like to read?
I'll read.
Okay.
Maybe if we reinvent whatever our lives give us, we find poems. Poems are everywhere in disguise, looked upon as trivial, devoid of meaning, power, virtue. But as we take the time to notice, truly notice, as we take the time to breathe, we begin opening our eyes, hearts, and spirit to the beauty that surrounds us. Life is what we choose to make it. Let's discover the subtle beauty that's around us and bask in its glow.
Wow. I'm sorry, who was that read? Sorry, who was reading that?
With Martha.
Thank you, Martha. Um, to acknowledge taking the time, sensitivity, and taking the time to write these down, and as we said before, writing from our gut and heart, and honoring the language of our feelings, giving voice. What we're sharing is something that's been done for generations in terms of healing, in terms of community, and hearing each other's stories, our dreams, things that make us laugh, things that make us cry, and being open and honest with those things. So appreciate what you said so much. Thank you. Anybody else like to read? Okay. We have a couple more poems. They're shorter, and just share them. I read this following poem, The Way It Is, in a group last week, and this young man named Lino said, you have to let the poem read you. So I love that we have quotes from Robert Frost and Leonard Cohen and these other great poets, and we also have one from Lino, a guy trying to get his GED. You have to let the poem read you. So this is a poem by a guy named William Stafford. When we talked about poems in the shadows of our ceiling just before we wake, Stafford had a wonderful practice where he woke up early in the morning, he'd lie on his couch, and he'd write. And I'd encourage everybody to do that, give it a try, because the beautiful thing about it, we're still in our kind of semi-dream state. And sometimes part of the dreams come into the poem. It's just a beautiful way to write. But Stafford had something he said in terms of creativity and who's creative, or whatever that is, that kind of narrative we've been, handed down, as it were. Somebody asked Stafford when he was in his 70s, when did you become a poet? And Stafford replied, that's the wrong question. The right question is, when did you stop being a poet? Because we're all born poets. We all have this. And then somewhere along the line, people tell us, well, don't do that, don't do this. So this is a poem called The Way It Is. The thread you follow, it goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you're pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it is hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. So we don't have to talk. We don't have about, but I'll shut my mouth. Anybody have any comments on that?
I do. I have a comment. Go ahead.
I think that in these few words, there is a lot of deep energy about the thread, that we suffer our diseases, our losses, loss of family, all the things that happen. And I feel that I've lost my thread, but I guess I shouldn't have done that. I need to get back to me.
Judith?
Yes.
You can say that. That's perfectly legitimate. The question is, what are you going to write? And we'll see where it goes. How's that?
Yeah.
And Ainsley, I think you're going to say something too.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
No.
I was going to say that that it's resonant, and I have reactions, but if we're gonna do a writing prompt, I'll save it. Or writing as response, I'll save it.
Okay, let's again, if you like to find a line or just where your pen wants to go, let's go. Okay, so let's write for a few minutes and we'll come back. And if we could finish up. Some shorter poems now. To be continued. Okay, if we could finish up, please. Ashley and I were sharing before we started the group today. There's a guy named Parker Palmer who said there are three teachers in the room: the teacher, the students, and the subject. So for our class, the teacher's the poem. Teacher's the poem. Okay, would somebody like to read?
I'll go.
Okay. And who's this?
This is Martha.
Hey, Martha.
Hi. But it's hard for others to see. You look fine, they say, well rested. Welcome back. Little do they know what lurks ahead. Danger, Will Robinson. At every twist and turn, there lurks a symptom. Do I take note? Do I speak? No one seems to truly care.
Wow. Last line, last couple lines. Do I take notice? Do I speak? No one seems to truly care.
It feels that way sometimes. I know that's not always true, but there is a loneliness being on this journey.
Yeah. I think when it's something that we live with minute to minute, and other folks check in once or twice, you know. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody
I
else
have
like
a little ditty
a
to
ditty?
read. My thread has been shredded. My thread has been tangled, but my thread is still able to mend. My thread is my lifeline. Thank you.
Still there. Sometimes it's hard for us to see too.
I have something. My vasculitis flares look and sound like a stroke. And I'm having a flare right now. My vasculitis is very rare, and I don't want to scare anybody, so they think that they will have the same thing. So I just want to give that little public service announcement before I do my poem. Mine says, grateful to be alive, thankful for each day, angry I'm still here. Why am I still here? Life is fine. Fine as wine. Life is fine. Langston Hughes. I'm angry, Langston. I'm content, Langston. I'm complicated, Langston. Life is fine. I have no idea if it's okay to quote another person's work in your work, but that's where my mind went, and so I went with it. And you told me it was okay to do whatever I wanted, so if I blew it, it's your fault.
I'll take all the blame for that poem.
Okay, very good.
I'm going to use another clinical term that I think was used earlier. I heard Ainsley use the word. So, oh fuck yeah, you can go there.
Oh my goodness.
It was amazing. Thank you. An appeal to somebody who touches you. You go where you need to go, everybody, in your poems. I'm sure Langston would love to hear from you. It's my 2 cents.
And I appreciate you being brave enough to share. And I like the reference to Langston Hughes very much.
I'm angry, Langston. In fact, I'm going to use what you just did in future workshops where I'm going to ask participants to speak to the poet. So I'm find what you love and steal it. I love what you wrote. I'm going to steal it, Teresa. I'm telling you right now. Serious. Serious. That young man who said, you have to let a poem read you. I said, hey, Lino, I'm stealing that. So here it is. Anyway, thank you. Would somebody else like to read?
I'll read.
And who's
I've
this?
written, change is hard to swallow, more abrasive than a pill, and the thread that's woven through my life pulls different places still. I have no choice but to follow, for the thread contains my soul. As it's made its many turns, I've watched companions go. They start with me, their grip so tight, assured they'll see me through. But as I've woven, turned again, their grip is loosened and unglued. They hold the thread, but aren't tied down, so many let it fall. Perhaps my thread, its turbulence, reminds us that we're small.
You keep rhyming. You keep doing that. Keep doing that. My daughter's dog just came in the room, if you can't tell. It's out for a walk. Thank you. Would somebody else like to read?
I'll read mine.
Okay, Deborah.
It didn't really make sense to me, but
Oh boy.
I used the thread to find my lost dogs in the woods one day. They kept escaping the gate and running into the deep woods, and I was afraid to go there by myself. So I tied myself to a tree and walked in the woods. There is an invisible line that connects us to the universal love and wisdom of the divine. When that thread is cut, we are dead. One of the reasons that I avoid examining that connection to the divine today.
Mm.
And you can make sense of that confusion.
That's some gorgeous confusion. And the question at the end.
Yeah, that's another one of those things.
Write that down. That is
Avoidance. It's funny how that works.
Put questions in your poems. Ask questions. Ask a series of questions. Write every line as a question if you want. You know, we don't have to have the answers. Even when we feel like we have an answer, it's kind of a question, no?
Well, I tell you, I have not even thought about writing a poem till I got that email about this class. So I guess maybe there's some stuff in there that wants to come out or something.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something there.
I wrote one a couple of days ago when I, in preparation for the class. And I was like, well, is this what, they would want in this kind of thing?
Yeah.
Wasn't really sure.
Yeah. Well, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm still confused about what, I'm getting a clue here with with the class, but I'm still confused about the tool itself, I mean, it as a healing tool.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just, it's, I guess, the process of, communicating whatever is inside.
Right. Right.
And maybe that moves you forward in understanding, in accepting or whatever, I guess your thing is, I'm assuming that's what we're doing. I'm not sure.
Great question. For me, it's having a space where the group creates safety. That's not something I can do. I can share poems, share thoughts about things, share experiences, but it's really up to the group to create safety and understanding, connection, and having a place where we can share those things. And that kind of safety where, we kind of get up on our walking legs and learn how to move with this stuff. And my feeling is it does communicate. When we can communicate on this level, we can communicate on other levels. That's the hope. So these are some tools. Thank you. Somebody else like to read? Okay, so I think we'll just read the next couple poems. We're getting near the end. I came across this poem recently and enjoyed it. Awareness knowing itself. Settle in the here and now. Reach down into the center where the world is not spinning and drink this holy peace. Feel relief flood every cell, nothing to do, nothing to be, but what you are already. Nothing to receive, but what flows effortlessly from mystery into form. Nothing to run from or run toward, just this breath. Awareness knowing itself as embodiment. Just this breath, awareness waking up to truth.
Mm.
And the last one, William Stafford. Why I am happy. Now has come an easy time. I let it roll. There's a lake somewhere so blue and far, nobody owns it. A wind comes by and a willow listens gracefully. I hear all this every summer. I laugh and cry for every turn of the world, its terribly cold, innocent spin. That lake stays blue and free. It goes on, and I know where it is.
Mm.
So, and then next time you have some free time, just fill up a whole page and write as fast as you can. Don't slow down, just write. Then go back and circle 10 lines and you'll have a poem. So, well, that's all I have today. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jim. This was,
Go,
yeah,
Mary.
this was so gorgeous.
Thank you.
Thank
you. This was
Thank
really
you.
amazing.
Is there a part two?
Sure.
We'll have to talk to Jim about there being a
Yeah.
part two. But Jim, actually, one of the questions people were asking, would you be comfortable with me sharing this handout that you shared your screen like with everyone?
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
Okay. Okay. So everyone stay tuned. I'll send a follow-up email. But yeah, Jim, this was such a gift. And like you said, everyone who showed up today, I'm so touched by it for the safety and the love and the caring that you created, and for offering your gifts and your presence. Yeah, I think if we can, we might need to get Jim back here because this was a wonderful experience that you all helped make possible.
Please do.
Amazing. And you guys, it's up to you, but if you take your writing and print it up and put everything together, you'll have like a booklet of your poems. And I'd love to see them too. You guys wrote you wrote some amazing things. And
yeah, that's the last thing I'll add too. I'll put this in an email. We would love to see your poems, and I can share them with Jim, and maybe we can share them with the rest of our community who I think might be inspired, who would be inspired by it too. Anything, last thing you want to share, Jim, before I let us all go?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. Thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your Friday.